Hello, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live, A Tree Can Do That event. We are just getting started, and we are so excited that you are joining us for this live stream. I am joined by two of my absolute favorite colleagues in the Groundwork Network to talk all about a tree can do that. Before we get started officially, I wanted to first introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Hoffman. I'm the Director of Impact Assessment and Community Science at Groundwork USA. And it's my distinct pleasure to be welcoming you. And quickly, I'll go over a little bit about what Groundwork USA is. Groundwork USA is an affiliated network of nonprofits that are people-centered, place-based, working in the environmental space. We support grassroots efforts to build healthier and more resilient neighborhoods through a shared leadership model that achieves measurable impacts across environmental improvement, youth empowerment, resident engagement, and social cohesion. We also offer national technical assistance programs across brownfields reclamation and many other topics spanning community science, urban forestry, and resident-led neighborhood improvements. Thank you again for joining us, and we're so excited to share with you our topic today. But that starts with a question. What thing in our communities is an air conditioner, a water filter, an air purifier, a birdhouse, an economy booster, a therapist, a ShamWow, a safety guard, a noise reducer, and a traffic calmer all at once? Well, obviously, it's our trees. Today, we're talking about all of the amazing things a tree can do for us and our environment. Trees do so much. They improve our air quality by removing pollutants from the atmosphere. They reduce heat by working like a beach umbrella to shade surfaces, and they soak up stormwater like a sponge. All the while, they create stronger, healthier communities. Groundwork is working with communities across the country to bring these benefits to neighborhoods that need them the most. Today, we're discussing the importance of community-led urban forestry efforts and how these programs can enhance resilience, strengthen community connection and safety, create jobs, and most importantly, we want to talk about how you can bring these efforts to your community. And before we dive into the information, I'd like to restart a round of introductions. As I mentioned, I'm Jeremy Hoffman, and today I'm joined by, like I said, two of my favorite colleagues in the Groundwork Network, Meg and Ramon. I'm going to pass it over to Meg, who can introduce herself and say hello to all of the adoring watchers out there. Meg?
Thank you, Jeremy. It's nice to be a favorite. Look at that. I'm Meg Morgan. I am also at Groundwork USA, and I'm the Senior Manager of Urban Forestry Programs. So it is my very fun, very cool job, I think, to work with all of the affiliates in the Groundwork Network very closely on their urban forestry programs, especially in the areas of stewardship and in creating those programs to be as community-led as possible, because that is what brings these the most success. So I will toss it back over to our MC.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to asking you some very pointed questions about trees and their benefits in our communities. Joining us all the way from sunny San Diego, Ramon, will you say hello and introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, buenos dias, buenas tardes, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you're at. I am in San Diego. Unfortunately, it's not sunny today. It's a little cloudy. We're really close to May gray, so if you want to come to San Diego, best weather, in my opinion, September. But again, my name is Ramon Uribe. I am the Community Forestry Engagement Manager with Groundwork San Diego. If you don't know a little bit about us, we were founded in 2007 at the request of the city of San Diego to lead the master plan for the Choice Creek watershed. We focus on social, environmental, and climate justice. that is grounded in strong university and community partnerships so that we can deliver education, green infrastructure, and promote climate-safe neighborhoods throughout the watershed. And if you're not familiar with the watershed, don't worry, I got you. The Choice Creek watershed is a 32 square mile natural water system of creeks and canyons, kind of like the lungs down here. And that basically this creek crosses neighborhoods within City Heights, Barrio Logan, southeastern San Diego, and Choice Valley communities, which many of those communities we do serve. But yeah, thank you for having me here. Very excited. I look forward to seeing what else we can talk about and see what trees can do.
Great. I'm thrilled to have you joining us as well. Sorry to hear it's entering the May gray. I'm reporting to you live from beautiful Richmond, Virginia, which is also cloudy today. But I wanted to start our conversation today and kind of level setting around some climate information, climate science information, and how that interacts with trees in our communities. As you probably know, 2024 was the warmest year on record, following a trend of the last, I want to say, 5 years being among the warmest on record. Somewhere around 1.2 to 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming has occurred since the Industrial Revolution. Now, we understand that is primarily driven by the emission of heat-trapping gases from humans burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas to produce energy. Now, what that does, that global climate change, this global warming, has a direct impact on the extremity of weather-related events that affect our communities. The first one I want to talk about is heat. It's almost the summertime, and the heat is on, y'all. By almost any indicator we can measure, extreme heat is getting more extreme. The frequency of their occurrence throughout the year, the length of time that we spend above heat wave thresholds is getting longer every year. The time of which an extreme heat event can affect our communities, whether happening earlier in the spring or later into the fall, is also expanding. And the intensity, the feeling of those heat waves is becoming stronger as global climate change intensifies our climate system. Now, we also know that even without climate change going on in the background, that our built environment around us, how our neighborhood is designed, can either make that climate change amplified heat event worse or more comfortable. And that is through what we know as the urban heat island effect, where big swaths of paved over, hard, dark surfaces tend to amplify extreme heat, where more natural environments within our urban systems tend to dampen extreme heat. And we all know the feeling. Walking down the street during a hot day, you probably are hopping between areas of shade. And trees do a very important addition to our city's ability to shade itself. Groundwork USA community science campaigns have revealed surface temperature reductions of over 30 degrees Fahrenheit when comparing surfaces under a tree versus not under a tree within just a few feet of one another. This then also corresponds to air temperature reductions, what we actually walk through as we move through our cities and towns. Air temperature reductions registered in Somerville, Massachusetts, were over 10 degrees Fahrenheit reduced relative to a street nearby by one large mature tree in a neighborhood. Now, heat isn't the only thing that's happening due to climate change. We also know that flooding and extreme precipitation is becoming worse. At the same time as the global climate system is warming up, the atmosphere also becomes more spongy. Basically, for every increment of global warming that occurs, our atmosphere can hold more water vapor, leading to more extreme precipitation events now than there were in the past. This means more rain is falling on the same area over a shorter period of time. This creates the conditions for localized flooding that can damage our homes, our neighborhood's infrastructure, and our public health through reducing our ability to recreate in local water bodies and downstream impacts of flooding like mold in our homes. But did you know that trees can be extremely thirsty? Some estimates suggest that trees can absorb thousands of gallons of stormwater per year, providing a unique direct benefit to our homes and neighborhoods through avoiding this stormwater entering our sewer systems. Now, ultimately, our health is uniquely and intimately intertwined with our built environment. And these trees providing these direct related benefits to stormwater and heat also directly benefits our public health. Things like improved respiratory health, reduced heat related illness, feelings of reduced stress, improved mental health, perceptions of community safety. The list goes on. Trees are a huge, important strategy for improving our community health. And now we'll start to dig into how communities like Ramon's are engaging in these practices and across the network and some other cool stories related to trees with Meg as well. So with that, I would like to kick off a little bit of a communication, a conversation around the health and human connection between trees and our communities. We would like to focus on how trees impact mental and physical well-being and how that ties directly into how connected our communities are. So this first question is for Meg. What does the science say about the connection between spending time around trees and our mental and physical health?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. And happy Arbor Day, everyone. It is a day to celebrate trees, so extra great to be having this conversation today. And you set it up beautifully, right? So the way our built environment looks and feels has it really closely, very intertwined with our own health as people and the public health of our communities, right? You really can't pull those two things apart. But in terms of the kind of connections between spending time around trees and mental health and physical health, there's so many studies about the benefits of being in nature in general. And of course, nature, trees are a big part of that. So with trees specifically, the things that they do for us, these are the things, a tree can do with our mental health in particular. Being around trees lowers our stress levels. So being around them, walking amongst them, even more so in urban environments where those trees are located maybe in a denser area. It makes you feel calmer. It makes you feel more at ease. This is reported from multiple studies that have asked city residents to kind of report on their own mental health, random periods throughout the day, random and regular intervals. And then whenever they happened to be around trees or maybe walked, past a park or they sat down for a moment amongst the trees, these participants reported lower stress levels and more relaxed attitudes while they were around the trees. But it's also not these just self-reported feelings either. Those who kind of experience this time around trees and spend time sitting amongst them or even walking past have actually lowered cortisol levels, which is the main stress hormone. So they're reporting that they feel more at ease, and actually that stress hormone is actually decreased as well. So this is really important because stress is connected to so many other health issues too. And it can be really a compounding factor. So why do we feel better around trees? Why do we feel more at ease? That's kind of an interesting kind of like, okay, so this has all these benefits, but like why, right? This really goes way back in our evolutionary history. Humans show a strong preference for trees and being around wooded areas. This is really a sense of security and shelter, and it moves us away from this high adrenaline fight or flight attitude towards feeling calmer and feeling more at peace and at ease amongst shelter. That's mental health, right? And of course, very also closely tied to our physical health. But on that side of things, when you are spending more time around trees, you're more just likely to be outside in general when there's trees around, and that's good for you, as we talked about. You're also more likely to exercise when there's trees around because it's more comfortable. There's shade. You actually might want to get outside and do things. And we know, at least for what we're told anyway, that exercise is good for us, right? So in addition to that, being around trees strengthens our immune system. You actually breathe in this chemical that I am not going to attempt, well, I am going to attempt to pronounce it, phytoncides, okay? Jeremy's the scientist here, so he can correct me on the pronunciation perhaps, but there are these chemicals that when you breathe them in, this increases this certain cell activity, the NK cell activity, which is white blood cells, and that supports your body's immune system, of course. So even just breathing in these chemicals kind of helps build your immune system. Being around trees lowers your blood pressure, of course, tied to mental health and stress as well. That's another really tangible physical benefit. And of course, there's the clean air that trees provide and the shade as well. Some of those things that were introduced at the beginning, and lowering that risk of heat-related illnesses through the shade that they provide, but also through the evapotranspiration, which is a very kind of fun and fancy word for saying the water that is released, soaked up through a tree, but then released back actually out into the atmosphere through the leaves. So there's so many different benefits. Those are really just some of them, of the kind of mental and kind of physical health benefits that being around trees provides. They're good for you. So fruits and veggies are good for you. Exercise is good for you. And trees are good for you too. They really kind of act like a multivitamin with all the benefits that they bring. So that we can just add that to the long list of things that trees can do. They're good for you.
Well, boy, oh boy, I know now I'm going to walk outside later today and refer to every tree I see as Dr. Tree MD. And we know also that trees are not only really important public health interventions for things like we just heard Meg cover, but we also know that trees can be a community organizer. And so this question is for Ramon. Ramon, how have you seen the social bonds in your community strengthened through the urban forestry efforts that you've undertaken in Chollas Creek? And what are the residents saying about their trees? What are residents saying about your program overall?
Yeah, so thank you, Meg. I'm pretty confident that the vast majority know that trees are, mentally, physically, and emotionally better for our health. But for social bonds, like you mentioned, on how it brings people outside, and that's exactly where I want to get into. I have seen social bonds strengthen through our urban forestry program, from community members to community-based organizations. One that I can think of that was not too long ago, I know our program just started roughly 6 months ago, so not too long, is that two homeowners from our March community planning block parties organized a community garden walk. Two completely neighbors that did not know each other than that they were getting trees last month together decided to plan this event. And basically what it was, they wanted to show off their gardens in a friendly manner, introduce each other, and also increase interest for our program and in their community. And I was so fortunate enough, because I'm not from this neighborhood that I served and I'm fortunate to serve, but I was very fortunate to be invited as an honorary community member. And, some people strive to be an honorary doctorate degree to get one, not saying that I wouldn't want one in the future, but I found my peace striving to be an honorary community member for the neighborhoods I'm fortunate to serve. And it's truly a beautiful thing. I guess I'd say it's more of like a professional friendship with them, because they'll message me, they'll ask how I'm doing, vice versa, and then we'll talk about trees. So the beauty of this urban forestry efforts that we're doing is that it's not one and done. We just don't plan and leave. I'll be there next month. I'll be there in 6 months. And hopefully I'm there in a year, 2, 3, or 4 years and see these trees mature. So if they didn't know each other and they didn't have that relationship before, they are now rooted by trees. No pun intended. There will be a lot of puns. And, a lot of the community members and even the CBOs that we're working with, we were fortunate to work with San Diego Center for the Blind. In San Diego, there's so many parking lots that don't have trees. And when I saw that property and they were interested in some free trees, I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's get some 5 trees. And from there, we did a promotional video to encourage other CBOs to participate as well. I truly believe this is an effort that's going to take everyone. But our residents, our community members, they love the trees. They love the professionalism. They love how smooth it was. And they love the partners that we have been working with, which is Trees San Diego Canyonlands. And, that they started sending, because it's spring, they started sending me pictures of their trees blooming. So that's beautiful, seeing pink flowers, seeing yellow flowers, seeing the trees grow. Overall, I a strong believer that our community members, our tree parents, are definitely happy. Maybe some are confused why it's a free program for our community. But in the end, so far, so good. 130 trees planted, and I will be going back to check on the ones we planted in the fall of 2024.
That's so impressive. Congratulations on this early success, Ramon. It really shows how deeply you care about your community and how that feeling of community care around something as seemingly simple as trees can promote that compassion for neighbors who didn't know each other before. So congratulations. It's such an inspiring story. And so now I want to talk about, reaching beyond just those social benefits and the kind of community organizing that you've done around this community tree planting program. We also know that trees are really useful for climate resilience strategies and even bigger city planning conversations. And so, Ramon, how would you say that Groundwork San Diego's urban forestry program has or potentially has the opportunity to open the door to broader conversations in your community, like things about flood resilience or just overall climate related community planning?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, our urban forestry program opened doors for broader conversations because one, I think what our program has been able to do is increase community ownership. Having community members walk their block and have community garden events, and they're excited to share that information and even water for their neighbors. And also our resident fellows, if you're not familiar with our resident fellows, we had a program 2 years ago, with 20 community members from different neighborhoods. And those that graduated, they learned the tools on how to organize. They learned about green infrastructure and stormwater infrastructure as well. And then 5 had an opportunity to continue those efforts to increase outreach and engagement in their community. So these fellows were able to help us not only talk to other community members, but their neighbors. And this has definitely helped out a lot to open the conversation. And, the communities I have been fortunate to serve have been there for generations. One thing for sure might be it's similar neighborhoods that it's important to have great relationships with the community and you have to build trust. When you build this trust, you have to be repetitive, reliable, and be where the community is at. For years, maybe generations, these communities have seen empty promises, lack of investment. So we have to build that trust and build that rapport and be repetitive. That is a stepping stone, and you will get noticed. Now imagine being consistent and delivering a win for community members that have not seen much investment or change. The doors open because they see that we truly care and we want their feedback. In our urban forestry program, we have been able to reach hundreds and in the future, hopefully thousands of residents. It will allow us to ground our roots and branch out and deliver a win for communities we serve. Our program opens doors because once we plant the tree in their yard, kind of like I mentioned, they're kind of stuck with us forever. Not really, but we'll monitor the trees, we'll help and continue the communication between Groundwork San Diego and the community. And also for the community tree planting block parties, we were able to have informational booths for city CIP projects to engage neighborhoods and neighbors with education and also collect constructive feedback from them.
Well, that's great that you're using this as an opportunity to enter into these deeper conversations around community planning and building the trust in the system that undergirds that decision making. That systems change is a huge part of what we try and do at Groundwork USA. And so, Meg, this one's for you, is, feeding off of what Ramon is talking about at that community level. Why do you think trees can be such a powerful gateway into these larger resilience efforts? And how are these conversations happening elsewhere in our network or around the country?
I don't know if I could explain it better than Ramon just did with his on the ground experience and your specific stories in your community. So thank you so much for sharing that, Ramon. That's really meaningful. But exactly as Ramon was kind of explaining, I think trees are connectors. They have all these different co-benefits and all these different, great things that they provide that are related to all these aspects of environmental resilience. So whatever people maybe really care about in their neighborhood, you can find different ways to kind of bring trees into that conversation because they do have so many benefits. So they're great conversation starters. People do generally have some kind of an opinion about trees, if they have some kind of experience, or they have memories being around trees growing up in particular. So it's a great way to kind of start a larger conversation about environmental resilience, is to talk about, hey, just that one tree. It's very tangible. You can look at it, you can point to it, you see it change from season to season. You watch it grow from years to years. They're actually also not too difficult to care for. The maintenance is very, very important, and you cannot skip it. You cannot skip the care, but it is very doable. You don't have to have a green thumb. I tell people that all the time. As long as you water it, as long as you kind of check on it, make sure that it is okay, that really trees give themselves everything that they need, right, through the sun and through the soil and that little bit of water that you'll also provide. So they're tangible, not too difficult to care for, really easy access point into conversations. And kind of as Ramon was saying too, in San Diego, you can kind of make it regional. You can make it specific to your community and what people care about. So I know in San Diego, so much of the work that their team is doing is all around flood abatement and flood mitigation. I think maybe that surprises folks sometimes that is something that San Diego even experiences. But when was that last very terrible flood, Ramon? That was January of 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, January 2024. It might have been January 21st, if not January 20th.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, pretty recently, pretty terrible flood. I know impacted some neighborhoods that you work really closely in, and then being mindful of folks' experiences, especially right after a disaster like that happens. You don't want to immediately come in and kind of talk about, let's get some trees planted, but kind of having that reference point, when the timing is right, to say, hey, this is something you can do in your own yard. You have control over this, and that tree will help. Kind of with the situation that you just experienced, you can kind of take that same approach across these different communities, and the different affiliates in the network are doing just that. So for example, Groundwork Milwaukee and Groundwork Somerville, a lot of the work that they are doing is around food security. And so if that's kind of one of their main hooks, and some of the things that the community is saying that they really care about, they want to do something about, well, a tree can do that, right? Because you can plant fruit trees. And then that kind of helps address that need, while in addition providing that clean air, providing that mental and physical health, providing the fruit on top of that, right? And then that can be your gateway to maybe talking about, okay, we love these fruit trees. Let's also get some large canopy trees planted in the neighborhood, so that when we walk to our community garden, it's a comfortable and shaded walk on the way there. So it's just kind of an example of how trees can be this kind of turning point to these other pieces of environmental resilience. A couple other examples, hooks to bring people in. Places like Jacksonville, Florida, Groundwork Jacksonville, and Groundwork Mobile County in Alabama. It gets hot down there, y'all. It is down there in the South. It is approaching summertime, and that is something that is very present for folks who live there, is this extreme heat. So talking about the shade, that might be the hook that gets trees planted, and then they also provide all those other benefits along the way, right? And then in Richmond, California, too, air quality is a major concern. So trees are also filtering our air, and they're providing clean oxygen for us to breathe too. So it's whatever this kind of community issue is that kind of bubbles up as something that is of extreme importance and care, you can kind of plug trees into the mix. So across the network, more and more affiliates are planting trees. They will always plant trees in public places like parks and street trees in the right of way, but more and more affiliates are also planting trees on private property, really bringing those benefits even closer to where people live and spend time. So it's just a really great and tangible way that people can make a difference in the places where they live.
Well, we totally agree in every way with both of your answers, and how critical these tree planting programs can be to advancing other community priorities. As we know, many of our issues in urban areas specifically overlap and intersect across things like food, transportation, housing, health, and overall community resilience. So, thank you both for sharing your perspectives on that. Now I want to kind of switch gears into just how this really improves everyday benefits, livable neighborhoods, more beautiful communities. And so I wanted to just quickly say the climate benefits I mentioned earlier about trees, the sponginess, the beach umbrella-ness, those can actually be valued directly in a dollars and cents way. By lowering temperatures of a neighborhood or a particular house, trees reduce indoor power consumption, saving that family or business dollars and cents on their bottom line. By absorbing stormwater, trees reduce and mitigate flood risks and damages and avoid stormwater from going into the sewer entirely. Those values can be monetized. And based on estimates from our partners at Earth Economics, Groundwork USA's tree planting programs return on average $35 for every single dollar that we spend on them. That is a huge return on our investment, reflecting the social, economic, and environmental benefits spread across our neighborhoods in different ways. So, Meg, how do you think urban trees contribute to making neighborhoods more livable and present in the context of this kind of information?
This feels like but wait, there's more, because there are. We've talked about so many benefits already, but we haven't even hit them all.
The
So there
more the
really are
better.
some maybe more like surprising or maybe lesser known or thought about benefits that trees bring that do make our areas where we live, work, and play more livable, more pleasant to be around. So we talked about public health benefits, of course, and how trees can kind of be this gateway to climate resilience projects overall. Some of the other things that they do, for example, trees provide noise reduction benefits. They really act as natural sound barriers. They both absorb noise, but they also deflect noise. We're thinking things like car engines, highway noise, that also, of course, because all of these things are tied together, impacts your mental health too, right? So when it's a little bit quieter, these impacts are felt even more, especially when the trees are planted really densely and close together. So we haven't mentioned the microforest hot topic yet, but I can very quickly say microforest is a very densely planted forest. It's stimulating a natural in a forest environment where trees are planted super close together in a very small square footage footprint. You go into a microforest, it is very quiet in there. Even one that has a very small square footage, even if it's in the middle of a city, it is a lot quieter, in addition to being cooler, more comfortable, and habitat for wildlife, all these other things. So this noise reduction is kind of a maybe lesser known benefit. Makes our neighborhoods more pleasant to be in. Trees also provide natural traffic calming benefits. So this is particularly true when trees are planted along both sides of a street or a roadway. They're kind of creating this kind of natural tunnel effect where drivers subconsciously just naturally drive slower, an average of really about 8 miles per hour slower. That's without speed bumps, that's without cones or anything else, just trees lining the sidewalks, right? In addition to all these other benefits that they provide. So Ramon so beautifully gave these examples of the social benefits and the neighborhood cohesion benefits of trees too, and just other ways this is happening. Ramon is seeing it and making this happen on the ground in San Diego. They also really increase neighborhood pride where you live, right? This is especially when residents themselves are involved in, finding the planting locations, picking out the species that they're interested in, and then also getting their long-term buy-in for the care and maintenance of those trees for the long run. Many community members cite their reason for planting trees to be very future focused. They want to plant trees because so that their grandchildren can visit them, in the future. And it's very much hopeful and thinking ahead towards what this neighborhood could be in the future. So yeah, people plant trees really as a way to show care and love for the places that they live and for their future generations. And exactly like what Ramon was saying too, it really creates a stronger sense of place and pride, and very literally roots people to their communities.
Well, with that, Meg, you've shared so much information about what trees do and how good they are for our communities. I wanted to encourage anyone watching, streaming at home or at work or wherever you may be. I would encourage you to please submit any additional questions that you might have for me or Meg or Ramon into the chat, and we'll return to them after this last little bit of conversation that we're going to have. So please submit your questions into the chat, and we'll be sure to get to them in a little bit. But returning to you, Ramon, when we think about all the positive experiences you're having, the success that you're going to enjoy over the next few years, other communities are going to be like, well, I want that too. So what advice do you have for residents or other organizations who want to get started with their own community-led tree efforts? And how might Groundwork San Diego's unique program help inform that?
Yeah, I mean, for residents, plain and simple, use us while you can, obviously in a respectful way. We have the resources, they're here for you. And we're more than happy to help support, learn, and get to know you. So don't be afraid to get involved. Look for your local community planning groups, neighborhood groups, community rec groups. Also look for like-minded community-based organizations and other nonprofits. Show up to City Hall and let your council members know that, hey, we want more green, we want more flowering trees. We want to feel more safe. And for organizations, I mean, it's meet your community where they are at. You can host a workshop and invite people, but it's better to be at a community event or go to a community park on a weekend and be where the community is at, especially going to community planning group meetings where it can help you increase your outreach and amplify to other people. Also, continue to change the program and adapt to make it feasible for community members and your organization. From experience, there's a lot of trial and error, and it's okay to sometimes make some mistakes along the way, because it will help you figure out what works best, not only for the community member, but for our organization and your organization as well. And again, this is not something you can do alone, so you have to work with others. I think cross-team collaboration has been very important down here in San Diego, and we're very fortunate with the partnerships we've been able to have with Tree San Diego, San Diego Canyonlands, and also departments from the city to get some street trees on the ground. Since we don't do street trees, we do yard trees, but being able to let the city know, hey, this community member that wants a yard tree also wants a street tree. And it works out even better because we're helping each other do that outreach. Again, the way you have to make this program unique, and the way we made it unique is we plant, we inspect, we provide tools, and we also reward tree participants. Water is not cheap in San Diego, and the neighborhoods we serve are lower income, sometimes almost middle income. So we have to think about different measures to encourage people. And what we do is provide a $25 stipend for watering efforts for the whole year. And if the tree survives in 12 months, they get another $25 stipend. They also get a watering bucket, a 5-gallon watering bucket. They know they need to do 10 gallons once a week, and they get a watering hose. So that brand new watering hose, so they're able to do the things that they need to do. And I think doing community block parties, that is the bread and butter of our program. We have done some events where we don't have volunteering events or community block parties, simply because where we're planting trees, they're a little bit further away from each neighborhood. But when we have these block parties, it's such a beautiful thing. We show up at 8 a.m. and we don't start planting until 9, but you'll have community members walking down the street on a Saturday, which will then increase your outreach and interest in trees. So yes, for organizations, make sure it's community-centered outreach. Inform your residents. If you have resident leaders, let them know to spread this information. Thankfully, we also have support from our local cafe, which is called Joanne's. And, I've gotten maybe like 10 interest forms just from that coffee shop itself. And visit the CPGs, the community planning groups, and also community events. So organizations, you will have to get down and dirty and make some trial and error. But in the end, in my opinion, after all this, it's been very fun and a great experience to learn and also be welcomed by the communities I serve.
Well, it sounds like, reflecting on everything you've said, Ramon, is that, you have to be ready to engage at the person by person resident level, while also acknowledging the networks and cohesion of the organizations that might already be at the table at the same time. So positioning yourself as dedicated to advancing the community and residents' vision for their community, while also recognizing how the other organizations are a part of that existing network, is hugely important for advancing early and like demonstrable success. So again, just congratulations to everything that you're doing in San Diego. And I wanted to just bring this to, we're right at the edge of our time together today, but before we close, I was hoping to get each of you to reflect on a small little piece. Like, if you forgot to say something, you want to say one more thing that you hope viewers of this live stream take with them as they think about planting trees, what is it? I'll start with you, Meg.
Everyone can be a part of planting and maintaining their urban forest. You do not have to be an arborist. You can become one along the way if you would like to. But you can learn and you can get involved and learn the basics, and we need you.
Ramon, what do you think?
Well, for me, I think this is more on the organizational standpoint, especially if you're going to be planting trees in people's yards and in underinvested communities. We are the ones that need to prove that we're here to serve for the betterment of the community. So take it as you will. The community has been very welcoming. I've been very open-minded. I hope y'all can do that as well. And aside from that, I've been very fortunate to be running this program. It's been a learning experience, and it looks like soon, maybe next month, we should be getting hopefully another 30 trees on the ground, which would be a pretty good milestone.
Well, thank you both so much. Meg, thank you for sharing your perspectives on the importance of trees in our communities. Ramon, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on how to structure a really inspiring and successful tree planting program in San Diego. We hope that you at home or at work or wherever you're watching are excited about this. And if this conversation has inspired you, there's way more than where that came from. Last year alone, Groundwork USA and our affiliate network helped plant over 4,000 trees in cities all over the country. This, of course, creates jobs, cools our neighborhoods, and strengthens our community and climate resilience. So this Earth Month, meaning right now, we're investing in community-led urban forestry to make sure even more trees take root at that hyper-local level. Do you want to get involved? Then you should check out groundworkusa.org/seeding resilience. We would love to see your participation in this program. And I'll throw that in what I think is the chat here. Join the chat. Connect. Oh, see, someone else is going to have to do it because I'm not connected directly through the chat. But if you just go to our website, groundworkusa.org, Seeding Resilience will be there. Please join us in supporting these programs like Ramon's and furthering the work of people like Meg. So thanks again for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again in virtually no time to tell you something else really interesting about the infrastructure in your communities like trees. Everyone have a great weekend. Happy Earth Day and happy Arbor Day.
Happy Arbor Day, everyone.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Ramon. Thanks, everybody.